here. Just wanted to say, hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. What's up? And hope you guys are having a good Friday. I know that there's a lot of things going on, but hopefully you understand that you know life is what you make it. And you have that whether that is within you that is eternal. Because God made us. That if you don't believe in God, you believe in a God. Well, your ancestors probably did. And sometimes maybe you can think about your ancestors. One thing about the Catholic Church is that it's unique in that sense, that it's universal. They have allowed the Mayan rites to be part of the mass. So therefore, we can actually call upon our 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 ancestors, for those that are Mesoamerican. I mean, true American people. That being said, there's a lot of people here that I've been illuminated. Like I said, if you guys want to listen to somebody, you guys are left wing, and if you guys are really into hip hop, y'all really left wing, y'all really about the culture, then you have to know somebody like Immortal Technique, right? KRS-One, Killer Mike, and all them, right? Well, every time I listen to Immortal Technique, I get illuminated. He says something which is very true, which is that the whole Zionism that was created in the U.S. was a response to um, European violence, in which one could say was Christian violence against against them, against Israel. So that was the response. That was what Zionism was about. That response to that. So it's funny how now they use Zionism as a way to attack Palestinians, when the Palestinians, weren't the ones that created Zionism. You know what I mean? But they use that. They try to act like anti-Semitism in this, when like all that stuff that created the anti-Semitism acts were of the Europeans, not of the Palestinians, not the Easterns, right? It was the Western European. So that's crazy. You know what I mean? Especially now, how like this unholy shaky alliance that they create. Like it's like the people that are supposed to be Republicans are not really Republicans, and the people that are supposed to be like everybody that says their own, like, they're arguing against themselves. Like he says that the people that are Zionists that are arguing about people, they're arguing against their own people. If they go back 50 years and they read and they look at their people, they're arguing against themselves. You know what I mean? And at the same time, right, when it comes down to this country, this nation, the biggest Holocaust were of the indigenous people and all the cultures they had. And so ironic that Christians are the ones that, he said another point which said that when Jesus Christ was dying, when he was on the cross, who did he call upon? He called upon the prophet Elijah, right? He called upon Elijah, which was his family, right? So it was his ancestor, right? Because he derived directly of the line. If y'all didn't know that, he's directly of the line. So as to say that, if in the Christian sense, nature, right, you know they don't want other people to believe in any other god but theirs, right? But when our ancestors believed in their gods, the pantheon, the polytheistic, like Aztecs and the Mayans, you know what I mean? Well, here, not the church, but the people, right? The so-called Christians, they believe, no, we're the one true God, and our God is bigger than your God, And they came here and they, how it was, right? Where Hernando Cortez or whatever, they had a crucifix, a cross on one hand, and a sword in the other. You know what I mean? And they slaughtered people and stuff. And of course, it was a brutal. I mean, they decimated the people here in North America, South America. This is the biggest indigenous Holocaust. We're talking about 50 to 100 million people in this side of the world, on both continents, to be decimated down to approximately 6 million. You know what I mean? So we're talking about tens and millions of people that were killed. And people say it was chemical warfare. People say it was intentional. People say it wasn't. I believe that, but a lot of them didn't die because of natural causes. Some of them died. They were slaughtered. You know, and they were buried together. It was mass graves and slaughtering, and then they put a, they stole the lands. Canada belonged to the Inuit people, right? The tribes. Obviously, the people here, Cherokee. If you live in eastern, U.S., it belongs to the Cherokee. The Apache, Apache. That's where you get Appalachian Mountain Range, right? And because this is so important, because this is where they came. The settlers, the Pilgrims, and the Europeans came on this side too, and then they created the Plymouth being the first, city and shit like that. I mean, and all this or other. Well, it was Plymouth. It was Jamestown, and other freaking places around this side, right? But the point is that now you see remnants of these people, right? And they had a culture. They had their own pantheon, their own gods. But what I mean, Christians nowadays don't really care too much about the Native Americans. That's the only reason why I support Biden, because it's understated. But Biden put 80 Native Americans in his administration, and he also gave them. I think that's why I read that somewhere. And he said, no, actually he said that, and he gave them billions of dollars worth of infrastructure for them to help their reservations there where they live, right? So they could get water and streets and roads and shit, because they don't have that, right? Remember, like they've been treated. And by the way, he gave them legitimacy as an actual nation to those nations, right? So when they talk to him, they're talking on behalf of a nation, which means that they get recognized as a nation, and they go through they have all the litigational, right, appropriateness. It's towards them, you know what I mean, and respect towards them and stuff like that in that sense, right? Which is something that they always wanted their own. They actually get recognized as a nation, right? And that's like, it might not be important to y'all, but it is really important, what I mean, to preserve it, to respect the people. In my personal opinion, this country should be helping the Native Americans first and foremost. You know what I mean? Then we talk about blacks, we talk about, we talk about Hispanics, we talk about migrants, we talk about white people. I mean, and it's like the real Americans are the Native Americans. And I feel as though like they've been forgotten, because definitely the white man has, when I say the white man, you know what I mean, has really, put them as a far thought, like really didn't, I don't think gave them enough credence, right? And I mean, it must be devastating. I read somewhere in the past, like 20 years ago, the Native Americans were, they were like succumbing to a lot of drugs and drug use, because they were out there and they were doing drugs, because like it must be sad, to see your country fall in the hands of other people. And ironically enough, the same people, like that's what makes me realize, like, these guys aren't like it's common sense, right? Because I know that people that do drugs and people that are alcohol, they're going through misery. You know what I mean? And to have your land stripped from you and that being something that would cause misery in itself, right? But then watching this country, this just the racism that comes out of here, I mean, it's insane. But anyway, the polytheistic gods that they believed in, I mean, y'all didn't want to give any credence to them, and that's part of our culture. The Aztec Empire, that's further down south, not even in North America, but that's actually further down, right? In Mexico and stuff, was a civilization lasted a long time, and so did the Mayan and the Aztecs. And the Aztecs, bro, like, remember, guys, that these guys are the ones that influenced us for the calendar. But a lot of people say they were savages, they were dumb. Yeah, right. They had the most accurate calendar that we've had. It was down to like, they were able to, for 500 years, they were able to get the accuracy of Venus to approximation of 2 hours before it actually crossed across the sky. They were able to get it down to the fourth decimal, right? The fourth space of a decimal, fourth zero of a decimal, an approximation to time, their calendar. And that is, comparatively, I mean, the Europeans had to, like, they had to get rid of a whole, they do leap years, right? They got their leap years down to that. They got their leap years down to the approximation of the fourth decimal, the fourth space over from a decimal. And, comparatively, like I said, it's the Aztec calendar is something in itself that's just like crazy and amazing. right? And I feel as though like, you know, in real life, it's life itself is multidimensional, and that's one of the things they believed in, that time itself is multidimensional, and that what you think is old, because we're made to believe that time is linear, but what you think is old, but like I always think about it like this: you go to, you see, my dad always had a radio. He always had a radio, and it's a FM, RF radio, whatever. And that, he's able to get on it, and in itself, it doesn't have any digital things, it doesn't have a lithium ion battery, you know what I mean? But it does, but it doesn't have a screen or anything. But you can still hear music, and you can still shift through the channels and something like this. And if everything was to black out, this thing would still work. Like, you might not have Spotify, but you got the radio channel, right? And I started thinking like he's content with this, and I realized that he's content because he grew up in this era. This is great things for him. But then in itself, I still think that radio, technology is one of the most analog things, but it's so great still. I mean, it's still practical, right? And it reminds you of a different time. So time in itself is not linear. Like, these things still exist, and you can go back and you can live in that way as well. So when you, like, even the calendar, right, of the Aztecs, you could go back and you can see, and that is more better than what we got now, right? So that belief that time is multidimensional and you can exist in different times, and like, makes me connect with like the past and stuff, you know what I mean, and realize like, things don't just happen linearly. Things are cultivated in such a way at a certain time, at a certain constellation, in a certain form, right? It's different vibrations, different things that happen, but it's still something that's still, that could still be, it's a product, right, of a different algorithm, you know what I mean? And it's still like for me, I feel as though that's multidimensional and stuff, and I mean, I think it's cool, right? But I'm also glad that the Pope was able to recognize, the preservation of that. But again, the normal Christians don't really care, right? And they just try to, like, demean you. But like I said, when Jesus was on the cross, like I said, like Immortal said, Immortal Technique said, he he called upon his ancestors, Elijah. So why can't, so why do, like, Christians have a problem with other people calling upon their ancestors, right? If in your religion your God did that, you know what I mean? So, like, why do you have a problem with it? Because you have to understand that when they did this, when they came over here and colonized the Americas, they pretty much destroyed and killed and spread their faith by force, right? And raped and murdered and pillaged and they raped and murdered people and trafficked them and genocided them and stuff. And so everybody knows that. Christopher Columbus retired on the island, right, with a bunch of slaves, which means that he was a pedophile, because slavery was was legal pedophilia, right? Yeah, he could just go and rape his slave. Who was going to show up and stop him? It's his slave. I mean, so so did Thomas Jefferson. If you think, so did George Washington. John Adams didn't, because that man was a gentleman. John Adams is so cool. He had a long distance wife. He was romantic. He was romantic with his wife, and they wrote letters to him, and she was his inspiration. You know what I mean? He's like they called him the gentleman of gentlemen, the most upper class. No, he said of the most best class of gentlemen. You know what I mean? Or something along these lines. And that's John Adams, the second president, but the first real president. Because George Washington was not a real president. He was a general who everybody elected because he was the general, you know what I mean, of the army. And so they just said, well, you led the army, now lead the country. And so, he didn't want to be president, but he led it anyway because they didn't have nobody else. They didn't know any. They couldn't hold elections. They didn't know that yet. But the second president, which is the one who who some people I consider him the real first president. I think I think George Washington was the person appointed to, and he resented his role as president. You know, he's the one that presented the formation of the the one that led the formation or held it down until the real president came up. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like having to do his duty. You know what I mean? But yeah, the first real president I think was John Adams, and who was a great first president to have. He didn't retire with he didn't retire with slaves like George Washington or Thomas Jefferson did. I mean, he was a man who died sick, and he said that the legacy would live on with Thomas Jefferson. Unfortunately, Thomas Jefferson died the same night, on July 4th. I mean, on the same year, the same night that they both died on the same night. I always feel like there's more to the story, a conspiracy. I mean, I feel as though that the way that it happened, and especially because of the last remark that he said that he thought that Thomas Jefferson was also going to live, put them in the same boat, and there was no clarity. It made it seem like, wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to happen. Somebody intervened for this to happen, and I feel as though that they might have been poisoned. That's what I personally believe. You can refute me, I don't care, but they both died on the same night. You know what I mean? Anyway, what was I going to say? What are the odds? I mean, and they were separate apart. I feel as though they might have gotten poisoned at the same time. I mean, I will also say though that what I was going to say first and foremost is that, as you can see, this new element of Trump administration, right? You have to understand that the reason he won was because people were waiting, or people were not prepared for somebody to take this new age internet and social media networks into and weaponize it, right? Sort of unorthodoxically, right? And use it to move away from the legacy media to the new. And of course, time itself, right, has shown that the new generations have their own version of technology. Again, you know what I mean? And just evolving over time, and it seems like he was able to capitalize on this unharnessed power that was yet to be harnessed by the people that stuck to the legacy media and stuff like that, including TikTok, YouTube, and all that stuff. Even Trump says, I got a warm place for TikTok because I won 36% of the youth. You know what I mean? It's like, bruh, it's so obvious, that he was able to, they were able to do this because of input from the young generation, which was namely Barron Trump, right? And the young influencers and stuff like that, plus the business model of many of the people that he went. So this is basically what happened. So Trump went and said, don't listen to fake news like MSNBC, he said, because MSNBC is left leaning, you know what I mean? And so he won't say that about, maybe he'll say that about Fox. But I mean, all of these, they're not left leaning. They don't lean, but they have they obviously show like a certain, like, they're not 100% unbiased or objective. You know what I mean? Or how should I say this? They're not 100% neutral. You know what I mean? And so they are neutral, but they're not 100% neutral. Like, they're not exactly in the middle, right? And they all have, there's a spectrum of things, right? A spectrum of where people think, or what politics are, right? And so, people that's on the right, they gravitate to like Fox News. People on the left, mainly probably MSNBC, and I have reason to believe that these things fluctuate too. You know what I mean? But the point is that, so he told people to not get on fake news, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And then he told them to go and look on X.com or or he, it's funny because he didn't want to talk to those people. Like, I don't want to talk to you. You're fake news or whatever, right? They're the legacy media, right? But then he goes to podcasts and YouTube channels of cucks, of people on the right that are biased, subjective influencers, right? And that they promote propaganda and brainwashing and one-sided biased opinion, right? They're like the deep state, they're like the deep right, like freaking they're worse than the media. They're like blatantly, Republican or blatant. And the thing is, they didn't say that, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people listen to biased, subjective material without understanding that the host or the person, the owner of the channel, like Joe Rogan, you know what I mean, was actually, a Republican, and they didn't know that. They thought Joe Rogan was cool. They thought he had a good heart, like even Immortal Technique. You know what I mean? And all these people, it's really, 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 it's really sad to see people, like lie about their political affiliation for so long and then dupe half the country. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And they're, because they're followers, they're fans, they're fanatics, and then have them like swarm together and then start on their comments and all the brainwashed young individuals that go in and they're like, you know what, like, President Trump's so cool, he went on Joe Rogan. And it's like, the funny part is that Joe Rogan, like, I read this one comment that Joe Rogan, Mr. Conspiracy himself, had Donald Trump in front of him for 3 hours, because they spoke for 3-hour podcast, right? And he never once mentioned and didn't pry, or he mentioned it once, but he didn't pry, he didn't ask a follow-up question, he didn't do a second question about Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? And he's like, that's some wild shit right there. You know what I mean? All the shit that Joe Rogan talks about, and he had him right in front of him on his podcast, and he didn't ask him about Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? That's the most wildest shit. You know what I mean? And it was obviously for a reason, because he's biased and he was spreading a propaganda. He did it, you know what I mean? He wasn't doing it for his show or what he normally does. He was doing it as a fucking press run for Trump, spreading his propaganda. Biased. Because he talks all this shit outside of that. When Trump is not around, he should have pried it to him right then and there. But why did he do it? Right? Because he's a cuck, and he'd rather make him look good and shit and not pry into it. Again, biased, subjective podcasters and influencers, right? And that's the reason why. And then I looked up, right, something about Joe Rogan from back in the day when Eminem dropped his, crystal clear, freestyle diss on Donald Trump, where you cannot find a man more clear about where he stands, right? And all the politics and politicians, you cannot find a more motherfucking person than the greatest rapper of all time, Eminem, right? And he says he drew the line. You're either for or against that man, and he's against Donald Trump, right? And these cucks, right? They're like Joe Rogan himself. He didn't have the balls to fucking act like how he usually acts, in front of Donald Trump. Eminem had the balls to do a freestyle against him, right? And like millions of support. I mean, the greatest rapper, the biggest rapper. You know what I mean? And it speaks levels because Eminem really represents his community. He represents a lot of people in this country, right? And and he's always been the same dude, right? And he's always been himself, right? He never flakes. He never flaked out on especially on this type of shit. And then you got Joe Rogan, who's like, when I searched up Joe Rogan's reaction to that video when Donald Trump won. I went and I searched up Eminem diss or whatever, like what does Eminem think about this shit? Then I saw that diss, and I had seen it before. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this shit, and I went to it, and I went to Joe Rogan's shit, and I saw his reaction, and Joe Rogan was like, oh, he starts downplaying it, bro. So even like 7 years ago, even when Trump, when Biden won in 2020 or whatever, or I don't know when it was. I think it was like 2020, right? Well, whenever Eminem made that freestyle, I think it was like 17 or 18. He says that shit, and Joe Rogan's reacting to it, and Joe Rogan is like, and that's where I can start seeing the gears start turning, and I realize, oh, like This is what he thinks, right? Like this is who Joe Rogan is. And Joe Rogan was there and he was watching. He's like, I don't understand. Like he acts like he's never seen a rap video. Like, is this a rap? Why are they in this parking lot? Why are they like why are they standing in front of their cars like that? You know what I mean? Are they gonna sing too? Like what I'm saying? Like, cause he's Eminem and he's surrounded by his his posse or his clique, whatever you want to call it, the people that's and like I said, he acts like the stupidest motherfucker that have never seen a fucking rap video, that he knows nothing about the fucking culture. He obviously doesn't, and he did that because he knows what Eminem has already said about, he knows the vibes. He gets the vibes that people that don't know hip hop shouldn't judge it. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean, people, they've seen y'all seen the videos of Eminem having to deal with adversity and shit, against white people, and Joe Rogan, he acts stupid because guess what? He sides with those motherfucking crackers. You know what I mean? That's why he acts stupid. I don't know, because his viewers are fucking crackers, and not the good crackers. You know what I mean? Not Uncle Jack Cracker, Uncle Cracker, but I'm talking about whoosh, you know what I mean? Motherfucking trying to smack some slaves with shit. You know what I mean? With a whip. You know what I mean? That was top of crackers. You know what I mean? I'm saying that Joe Rogan tried to downplay the shit and he acted stupid, right, to all his audience because he was pushing that agenda to try to downplay what Eminem was saying. So during the thing, he's not even listening to what he's saying. He's already made up his mind. He's already like, oh, he's just making fun of it. And then he tries to act like the dude that was showing him was like, this shit's dope, right? And Joe Rogan's like, oh, he's just making for like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't understand, bro. And then he's like, oh, he seems like he's acting emotional, isn't he? Like, I'm like, bro, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And I start realizing, wow, like Joe Rogan has been a snake this entire time. You know what I mean? And he downplayed that shit and for his viewers since fucking years ago. You know what I mean? So that means that he's been a fucking, and that's the type of behavior that makes me realize what they really feel. That's what they really feel. You know what I mean? That's how you feel. Like when you hear Eminem talking shit about Donald Trump, you say that Eminem's acting emotional. You know what I mean? You try to downplay this shit. You try to oh yeah, oh that's right. You don't know hip hop, right? Because you're a cracker, right? So you act stupid. You know what I mean? So you want to downplay the entire culture. You want to downplay the entire hip hop scene. You want to downplay all these people and the greatest rapper alive. You can't even recognize him as the greatest rapper. You know what I mean? I get it now, right? Like, you know what I mean? And that's the type of shit that I start realizing, all because of Trump, bro. And I start realizing that shit like, wow, so you're a fucking racist. You know what I mean? So, I mean, shit. You know what I mean? Because to hear Eminem's diss, and then get away from that, oh, Eminem's acting emotional, is the most fucking, like, it's the most gaslighting fucking shit that white people can do. You know what I mean? It's like one of the most fucking like that's like the type of people that talk shit behind your back. You know what I mean? And then try to gaslight you and shit, won't say it to your face. You know what I mean? Like those type of people, right? That like rich white boys. You know what I mean? That fucking make fun of you but behind your back. And then they try to be like, oh, look at him. He's emotional. I mean, shit like that. That's just crazy to me. And I've lost all respect for Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? I don't like that man in anything. And then he says, because there was also this other time that Joe Rogan was on his podcast and he said that he killed a guy with it when he was, because he has this, Joe Rogan was a taekwondo motherfucker shit. He has this fucking kick that, I mean, his short, stout motherfucking ass can do this fucking little kick that fucking breaks a fucking tree, you know what I mean? And breaks a fucking door or fucking anything. Breaks somebody's ribs. You know what I mean? And shit, and that kick, bruh, is deadly. And he actually used it, this spinning kick, and he used it before on a little match, a little taekwondo match when he was beginning his career, and he fucking kicked the guy and killed the motherfucker. He killed the guy. He murdered him. But it's so crazy because it was not murder, but it's fighting. But when a black guy shoots another black guy, is that called murder? Because that's what they do. So when white people kill each other in the ring, I call it murder because white people like violence, just like, they like, hand-to-hand combat, just like black people like shooting shit. You know what I mean? And so for me, when a black motherfucker kills another black dude, that's called murder. So when a white dude kills another white dude in the ring, that's called legal murder. I mean, it's still blood sport, right? It's just that that's how they get their rocks off. It's really weird. But anyway, he motherfucking, he was on his podcast and he said how he killed this guy, and then he started laughing. The dude that he was interviewing was started laughing, and along with him, and that shit. He was smoking a cigar. He was like, yo, like he like, I knew he was dead. I knew he was dead. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, there you go. Like you know, you know, you've seen shit. And then and then he's like, but then he was like, then he started laughing like, and that shit. I don't know. I just felt like I thought like this guy was a fucking cool dude, right? But then I realized that's fucking narcissistic in a little bit, in a sense. Like telling millions of viewers that shit, because you get the comments and shit, and he doesn't say like I felt bad about it, or he says he quit after that, but he doesn't say like condolences, or he doesn't really regret it. You know what I mean? He says he felt bad about it, but he doesn't regret it. He says, oh, it's it is what it is, and then he started laughing about it and smoking this and drinking a cigar or smoking a cigar with his buddy on his podcast in front of fucking millions of viewers. I didn't like that shit. I was like, man, fuck this guy. Because that'd be like, listening to a rapper shit talk about how he killed somebody and shit and laughing and smoking a cigar doing it. You know what I mean? And the same shit. Like, who you think you are, Suge Knight or some shit? You think you're, man, fuck that shit. You know what I mean? And all of that stuff, like UFC, all that, all that fucking shit where people gambling and betting and boxing and Logan Paul and all these motherfuckers, all that shit is Babylonian, right? All that shit is Babylon. All that shit is going to hell. You know what I mean? All that stuff is glamorizing sex, violence, and money and gambling. You know what I mean? All that shit, bro. All that stuff is sin. By the way, you know what I mean? And so, like I said, nowhere am I. You don't have no. You don't have no remorse for what you've done. You don't care really. You're not a good person. You're not a good-hearted person. You know what I mean? And your lifestyle reflects that. So it's like, when it doesn't surprise me that you fucking like UFC and shit. You know what I mean? You like violence and shit. And you like talking about how people do this shit. And then when it comes down for you, when you killed somebody, giving them a cerebral hematoma or whatever you did when you cracked him across. And the dude was like, he barely coming up to him. Joe Rogan just spins and like the dude's barely started. This tall, lanky dude. And then motherfucking Joe Rogan just does this opening spin kick. Like, like as soon as the shit starts, the dude just walked up to die at this motherfucking loaded weapon that Joe Rogan decided to pull out and immediately. It's fucking crazy. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you should at least fucking show him some skill. I mean, just because you can fucking knock somebody's head off. This guy was probably trying to grapple with you or some shit. Motherfucking, like, he's sitting like there, whoop, and he turns and fucking just kicks him. It's fucking crazy. Does a 360 and just kick him. This shit's crazy. You know what I mean? For a first match, I mean, shit, that dude must have been probably nervous. Didn't expect to get a fucking death kick to his fucking head right out the gate. You know what I mean? I mean, and if you had been practicing that shit and you knew it was deadly, you knew it was deadly. I mean, what? Just because you can whip somebody's ass, should you have done it? No, it's just that again, whatever. It doesn't. I don't give a fuck. Point is that he's not a good person for me. You know what I mean? But there's all those people, bro. They're like, all those influencers are bad people. And again, they only won because those people took advantage of your young minds, where kids are not able to create their principles. They don't know what they stand for yet. You know what I mean? Before they get attacked. And what you have to do in this world is defend your mind, defend yourself when everybody, because the whole world wants to convince you of stuff, right? I learned this recently, right? What your teachers tell you, you know what I mean? You gotta learn and forge yourself, and forge your principles. So when you're coming up with your principles, it's important for you to defend yourself, right? And remember that everybody out there is trying to convince you of something, right? And just because this guy says that those guys are trying to convince you of something, they're also trying to convince you of something. I mean, they're also trying to convince you, and that's what happened. That's what I'm saying. That because Trump said, "Oh, look, don't listen to fake news," then you guys ran to him because you think that he's not trying to convince you of something. And I'm like, bro, so what they say is, look at things, look at the author of a story, look at what they're trying to say, but look at things objectively, right? Look at what he's done, look at what promises he kept, look at his behavior, Don't worry about what he said, but look at what he's done as well. You know what I mean? And look at promises kept and what he's not kept. And look at his history. Look at things like this. And so every time I talk about people, when I say that I don't like somebody, they think I'm fucking stupid. I'm like, bro, Trump is a fucking dude who sexually assaulted a woman and then said that that was not called rape because he only grabbed her by the pussy and penetrated her. You know what? I don't even want to talk about it. But the point is that he wants to sue people, or he wants Piers Morgan to sue people, or some shit. All these other fuckers, cucks, to like what the fuck, dude? You raped the fucking bitch, and on top of that shit, he got a defamation. He lost his defamation shit, and now that's what they want to talk because that's what bitch niggas do. You know what I mean? They carry a team of lawyers and ready to sue anybody that opens their mouth. That's suppression. What happened to free speech? They're like, oh yeah, we got free speech, but if you say something and you got consequences, and you threaten people, you got a consequence. I'm like, it's so ironic, how that law is. I know it does prevent people because, for example, I mean, I went to a, like, I understand that. Like, if somebody, gets threatened and they call the police, I'm like, yo, this dude's threatening something, like, they're threatening me, then, you know what I mean? Then yes, they should look into it because, let's say they don't look into it and then that person does kill somebody and then, and kills the person and then the victim is like, why did y'all stop him? So that's a real, scenario that could happen. And so I understand why freedom of speech needs to have its, like, felt, it has consequences of what you say. But I'm saying he is a rapist, right? And so you look at it and objectively, like, there's so many things that support my theory that it was not just E. Jean Carroll but other people. But and I look at it objectively, right? I look at it like, look, I don't make judgments on people, right? If I don't know you for a reason. My first impression matters. First impressions do matter. I don't care what you say. It matters what the heck I feel about you. You know what I mean? And some of that is based on what you say. You know what I mean? But the thing is, what did Trump, I don't understand how people got on Trump's side. I mean, I believe it's just because they didn't have nobody else to. Nobody else. They didn't have nobody else. The same shit that the reason why he won this time, because there was nobody else that stepped up. Because, I don't know. But it's funny because, I mean, it's not funny, but it's messed up because, like I said, he tricked people, especially those country people, by saying, oh, the left has, they're using the media. I'm like, bruh, y'all been brainwashing conservative freaking households for over 20 years. You've been brainwashing them since the Illuminati and the 70s and 80s with the MTV. I mean, get the fuck out of here. There's a reason why those kids like rock music and shit. When, y'all been, man, this shit goes way deeper than I don't know what, but you guys are talking about the media. You know what I mean? You're talking about people that are not part of the government, right? That and so it's like, for me it's just stupid. It's crazy as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, you guys remember that Netflix show, right? Silence on the Set, about the Nickelodeon kids. You know what I mean? It was right in front of your faces this entire time. We were just kids. This generation has had enough of you freaking people. Y'all don't do shit for us. You think that Donald Trump, saved everybody from Jeffrey Epstein? No. He knew him for 15 years and didn't say anything about that man. You know what I mean? Jeffrey, who has Donald Trump helped? Like, he's helped himself to a lot of shit. You know what I mean? This guy if he's so connected, he's so good, why didn't he tell anybody about Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, you didn't know your wingman like that? You know what I mean? Look, okay, so the things that support me that I think he's a rapist, because he was friends with, right, a year, okay, let me put it to you like this. Okay, there were stories that started off where after his first wife, where he said he would cuckold his friends, which means that he would cheat on, he would get his friends' wives and sleep with them by blackmailing his so-called friends. You know what I mean? And cuckolding them, right? So he would cuckold their wives, right? And their friend would know. Like, they would exchange. They would swing. He would swing. He's like, oh, I'll give you I'll bring you an escort. You let me sleep with your wife. Or I bring you an escort, you sleep with her, and then I'll blackmail you, and I'm gonna sleep with your wife, and I'm gonna tell her about what you've done, and now I'm gonna sleep with her. And I believe that 100%. You know who said that? Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, um, and the point is that he used to do those things, and then he met. Well, and in 1991, right? He had a little. Or I think I don't know if he met Melania by then, but he had this little boat. He had a yacht in the Manhattan Harbor, or whatever they call him, the Hudson, whatever. And he had a private yacht, and he decided to do a private party for underage minor girls that were in a beauty pageant that he was associated with. So he used to run into these beauty pageants. He's already had a history. Like, again, I mean, escorts and shit. Obviously, this man is that type of guy, right? And so when he was on this private yacht, he threw this little party, and with these minor girls that were like 14. You know what I mean? And that was in September 1991, right? And it was at night, and there wasn't no dudes allowed on the boat, so they're thinking that who did the girls dance with? You know what I mean? Because they didn't bring the male beauty pageant that was happening. Nah, it was like these little teeny whatever the fuck they call them, you know, you know what I'm saying, type shit, and him and 40, 50-year old men, in suits, cigars, big fat pork belly, motherfucking old rich white dudes. Those are the people that those girls, that the grinding with those girls all night, dancing with them all night and shit, flattering them and shit. What the hell? And then the next day, they had that beauty pageant and shit. Look it up. I mean, imagine somebody's just like, oh, we're gonna throw a beauty pageant for these little girls. Who the fuck does that? I mean, Ivanka was 10 years old at that time. She was 10, so she was kind of young too. But it also tells me that probably Ivanka and them grew up just like Kim Kardashian grew up, involved with parents who were socialites, who did did a lot of orgies and swinging parties, and then they left them to drink in their own and shit, and they would be in there sneaking bottles of wine, like this Chardonnay that I got right here. You know what I mean? And that's what all those kids, rich kids, grew up like. You know what I mean? By 15, they're throwing their own party, getting drunk, and crashing their BMW that they just got. You know what I mean? Or whatever the fuck. Having their maid help them. You know what I mean? Whatever. You know what I mean? And so the point is that they've been into that shit for a long time. I mean, you watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You remember those two little kids, the fucking Kendall and Kylie and shit. I never watched the show, but there's this one episode that came out, wherever, and I saw, they're always drinking, they're always grabbing their mom's car and shit. They're always fucking leaving. That's what they do, bruh. That's what they do. Like they want to one up. They think they're the center of the fucking universe, etc., etc., etc. They spend daddy's money. They buy fly ass shit. You know what I mean? And they think they're the center of the fucking universe. And now they've grown up, and they're trying to take over the country. They still think they're the center of the universe. Look at Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean? Shit. And that's what the fuck they become, right? That's what these fucking rich ass kids become. These horrible Jezebels, or whatever you want to call them, whores. I mean, glamorize debauchery, and the men, snakes. I mean, bad men. So anyway, so what happened? And that's what he wants to make America great again for rich kids like that, because that's their dream. That's what they know. That's all they know. They just know rich people shit. I mean, they don't care about all of us. They don't care about the majority. I mean, anyway, it's crazy to think that they can, like Elon Musk as well, can empathize with poor people. You know what Elon Musk's plan is? His plan is to put all homeless people. He says that homeless people don't exist. Homelessness is not a real thing. Just like, they say that systemic racism isn't a real thing. And they say that homelessness is not a real thing, and that they should all get put into tents or into a camp, into maybe a concentration camp, but into a camp of tents or whatever, and that they should all every homeless person should be put in those camps, and that they should seek mental evaluation or mental health services there, and then also to criminalize homelessness, right? Think about that shit. He wants to round up people from the streets, put them in tents, and make it illegal for them to be out in the streets. I mean, he wants to put them in a concentration camp. I mean, and shit, and he also wants to gut Jumpstart for kids and pre-K services. He also wants to cut 2 out of the 12 years of schooling that is the natural K through 12, schooling. He wants to gut it, and all the right wingers are they're for it. They're for cutting the services for the people. Because that's you could think the Democrats for those things, and they want to gut everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they want to do. But what the fuck does Elon Musk know about being poor? You know what he said? He said, "I sleep in a 800-foot home. I sleep in a tiny home right outside of my, space center. You know what I mean? I know what it's like. No, nigga. You had an education. You are gifted in a ways. You know what I mean? Actually, and people, over here, people, you're not policed. I mean, your daddy owned a gold mine in South Africa. I mean, shit. Where people think that the white man has been there as long as they have. Where black people or black kids are raised to think that the white people were there just as long as they were, and that you didn't settle there. Um, and then so why is Elon Musk even put in charge of these things? Why is he even what I mean? He's a rich man, and you're about to figure you're gonna feel it. You're about to feel how you're not gonna buy that crock of shit because you're not one of his fucking investors or stakeholders that he has to act like and try to sell these dreams and things for their investment. We're talking about a government here. We're talking about freedoms, not a fucking company. You can't lie to me, shit. You can lie to your fucking constituents and shit and your stakeholders, right? So they can get their return on money and shit. They're the ones that gave you all that money. You know what I mean? But you can't lie to us. Like, we know what the fuck. The government is not a fucking company, guys. But they're treating it like so. Because they're traitors. Traitors to the Constitution. That's for sure. And I can go over that. Just like how Donald Trump has like 5. I can say 5 impeachable offenses off the back of my hand. Like, right now. What it is? He's an insurrectionist. He's threatened the U.S. citizens. He's threatened to militarize the police against the U.S. citizens. Right? He's also had didn't want to concede when he lost an election and election fraud and all that shit, and twice, right? 2 times dealing with election. First, the Russian hack, and that he didn't want to cooperate with the FBI, and that he was threatening and blaming them that they had stolen election when it wasn't true, and then of course what the lie that he didn't want to concede his power that led to that as well, and also because he subverted the intelligence of the CIA, the NSA. He basically said a big fuck you, I don't trust you, to the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and the director of the NSA, and the director of the Cyber Intelligence Community Officer who was appointed to his election campaign, who all said that with great certainty, and that's how they speak in that jargon, which means that they're like 99% positive that with great certainty that Russia had meddled and interfered in the elections. And when he was asked this in front of Putin, he said, "No, I don't fucking believe my own intelligence agencies because they're investigating me." Because he didn't say that. He said, "Oh, they're incompetent. I don't believe them. They're corrupt." You know what I mean? And they're my enemies. You know what I mean? But I believe you, Putin. Right? And he said, "I don't believe Putin did anything." And then when you look at all his presidential shit, you know what I mean? The way that he wanted to cut off Zelensky money because Zelensky didn't want to promise that he wasn't going to join NATO. And then he pretty much agreed with Putin and Putin's rhetoric against the Ukrainians, which led to systemic oppression and killing of them, pushing them back to Ukraine, and which led to a full-scale invasion, right? A few years later, led to a whole full-scale invasion because the tensions rose because Putin now had Trump's backing on his rhetoric. And you think a dictator's not going to understand the playing field, understand that, oh, look, let's see how far how far I can push this line. Well, he pushed it, you know what I mean? And now he invaded Ukraine, and now they're at war. And now I don't know how many dead, how many Ukrainians have died, I don't know how much money. But now you got him thinking, and you see Trump again with the same rhetoric. Trump probably is going to try to give him Ukraine and say, oh, you need to surrender. You know what I mean? And so Trump acts like a bunch of people haven't died in that war. He acts like, no. What does MAGA say? They're the ones pushing the Russian propaganda. You know, he calls his fucking Tom Hoffman the border czar. You know, the fucking stupid Cucker Carlson is over there trying to talk to them when the U.S. officially has no communication with Moscow, like on paper, officially. They didn't. I don't know if they do now, but you know, they said that when Cucker was trying to go over there, they didn't have no communication, right? There's a reason for that, right? And then when I guess. And then when he was so like, you know, for me it's kind of clear and cut that, I mean, you tell me, you try to explain to me, you know, okay, and when the FBI, but going back to when he subverted the FBI's intelligence, the reason why he subverted the FBI specifically is because they were investigating him for the election fraud, right, or the election with the Russian interference. So tell me, how does it benefit the U.S. people for you to side with the people that with the dictator of the nation whom your own intelligence agencies are saying that they meddled with them, the election to get you with us, meddled with us for you to get to that, it helped your benefit for you to get elected. But tell me, how does it help the American people for you to try to replace the FBI director just because he was investigating you, or he had appointed somebody to investigate you, and then get the second guy and then try to say that, oh, he can't investigate you? Literally the most fucking guiltiest thing that we have ever seen from a president. And for me, and he shamelessly fucking says it, like shamelessly, like his own PR campaign was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, obviously they're shameless, right? And they don't care. And the MAGA is like, you are so transparent. Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, bro, he's guilty. You know, he could kill a man, and he's like, oh, at least we saw it. You know, oh, he's not hiding anything. He did it. You know what I mean? And they think that that's a good thing, right? I think that. What the hell were they doing beforehand? I don't know what the fuck they've been doing their entire life, man. But just because some dude is telling you that he's gonna do it, that's how Satan works, you know. He tells you he's gonna do it, and he lies with the truth. You know what I mean? And doesn't mean that he's a good person. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean that he's good. I mean, he it's ridiculous. And so anyway, just because, like, again, that's just how Satan works. Right? It's bad. And, you know, again, it's the most shameless thing that makes me think he's guilty, and that makes me consider him a traitor. Because how does that help us as an American people, and how does that help the United States for you to subvert or disrespect our own intelligence agencies just because they're investigating you, and then replace them and scramble them, destabilize them, and put your stooges there while agreeing with a foreign dictator? I mean, how does that help us? How is that supposed to help us? And it doesn't. I mean, and I think it was just because you are, you know, trying to find an alternate to where your vision comes into play, where, you know, Russia has a lot of power. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what it is. It might be Sagase. It might be something like, I'm not exactly sure, but it's not good. And so that's why I call him a traitor. And so that's why. So those are 5 reasons why I think that each one of these things were an impeachable offense in the Constitution, and so yeah. And so if you don't believe it, go read the Constitution then. I mean, but each one of those things are an impeachable offense. So if so, I didn't get the memo that the Constitution don't mean shit nowadays. I mean, to you fuckers. Oh, you know what? But without the Constitution, there is no America. So you guys are traitors. Yep, there. You know, there it is. I mean, either America's dead or it still stands because we're still here. You know what I mean? And you're a bunch of traitors. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'll go with that. You know what I mean? You guys have branched off from the U.S. and y'all think y'all the real U.S., but you're not the U.S. You're like you're the empire. You know what I mean? And the empire is not a democracy. I mean, it's a fucking aristocracy. You know what I mean? So go fuck yourselves, motherfuckers. That's why it's so important for people to be good natured, because in a democracy, people have to be good natured. And but again, um, like yeah, you know, they brought Romans into the mix and all this stuff, and again like they think like Romans, so like that's why I start thinking like, yo, I'm not a Roman. You know what I mean? We speak this Roman Greco language, but really, you know, that's why I was that's why I was saying like, you know, impeachment, for example, was something that these Roman people didn't have. You know, they didn't know what to do with King whatever that who they were running from, and the reason why was because they learned impeachment here in a way. I mean, I'm sure that they knew how to impeach somebody. They had the guillotine in France. You know, they had this stuff, but you know they didn't know when to use it. And apparently, you know, but one of the things they also learned was they had to kill the motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? Like the actual Democrats should have fucking killed that nigga. If you want to go back, if you want to be traditional, if you want to be a real American, you know what I mean, the actual our elected officials are warriors, and they should have been the one to kill that motherfucker, right? Because he's a traitor. You know what I mean? And if you go like when I was reading the Declaration of Independence, and you see that type of man that they were running from, that was the king, then it's like Donald Trump, like in a way. Like another thing that's an impeachable offense, you know, bringing that this is what they were running from, in the first when the Declaration of Independence from the king, where the king would take his political opponents and charge them without due process, right? Just like how social media people do now, you know what I mean? And his political opponents and stuff. Also, he would take him off island, and while they had court, so nobody would, you know, they disappear, you know, and then they end up in jail. Also, he used to bring his political, cause you know, co politicians, you know what I mean, to non federally regulated building where he used to bribe them, sort of like how Trump stays at Mar-a-Lago. Like I'm not sure if I haven't really looked this up. If somebody, you know, could see this. If Trump has actually brought people to Mar-a-Lago, you know what I mean? Because I know he brings all his buddies there, but I know he brought 34 classified documents, top secret classified documents there, right? But if he's actually bringing people whom are elected officials there to conduct business, that's also an impeachable offense. I mean, well, no, sorry, that's what the king was doing too. But I think that's an impeachable offense too, because you should not bribe anybody, and that's the, why are they going to be doing at Mar-a-Lago? You know, what are you going to give them a young? You're going to go par, and then you're going to go eat some steak and lobster. You're going to get you're such tiredness, so you're going to go get a fucking masseuse, an 18-year-old masseuse, just like I used to give to Jeffrey Epstein. You know, crazy. And that's what I'm saying, man. And now he's saying that he wants to shut down the government. Jeez. Apparently, like the white people couldn't not even last 10 years without being like in the center of attention, right? And allowing us to catch up, in terms of getting, and not even one generation after they did 400 years of slavery and a whole 100 years of war and taking this country over and creating this monopoly, creating this, this attainment of wealth that has been undocumented in the entire history of humanity. I mean, if that's, putting it lightly. I mean, excuse me one moment. Pardon me for that. I didn't even cut away. Um, but the point I'm trying to make, right, is I want to know what your thoughts are. If you are my followers, or you see my channel, and if you're watching this right now, oops, kind of want to know what you guys' thoughts are, because I know that I know that there's a radiant, maybe there's a rather gradient of, not a gradient, a spectrum of people of what they believe, and I used to think that I was like far right, but and I used to think I was center, but then I realized I was far right, and then I kind of somehow got into this, like, alternate vortex where I realized what exactly the far right is, and now I'm back like to the moderate left or the center left, right? And it's weird, but I mean, not in that, I mean, not in that order, but I'm just saying, like, because let me put it like this: I believe in God first and foremost, right? But I believe, and second of all, I love this country, but I know my reality, right? And I love my family actually more than I love this country. And so I love myself, obviously. So I've witnessed, racist policies that come from racist politicians, usually found on the right, right? Like after 9/11, how everything went to the right, and those first, policies against, the Patriot Act and the Department of Homeland Security and all that, those people were the ones that started racially profiling us and attacking us, right? And when they started racially profiling and attacking us, they used to do that when we were kids, segregating us and ostracizing us, criminalizing us, and putting us in that pipeline and traumatizing us, really. You know what I mean? And I had to do a lot of things that not even, like, people I know, like women that I know in my life, like part of my family, they can't even understand. You know what I mean? And they don't understand like my reality, because while I was facing those things, feminism has found a foothold, and that's great. But again, feminism doesn't speak for me neither. You know, and I realized that, and so there's so much, and as I grown up, I realized the injustice that is, the corruption that is, the insidious, detrimental, corrupted, I mean, system of police departments across the United States, right, and the judicial system, right, and I've seen this, and I've seen how they're not actually giving justice. I feel like it's an extortion on the people. I feel like they're an occupation that are extorting the people, and while and I feel like they work for the banks. You know what I mean? And the banks are the ones that are out here making these big cheddar, like the whole cake. They want the whole thing. And we're getting the small crumbs off the table. And the government's the one trying to ask for a little slice, like the political cartoon. The government is trying to actually ask the banks for funding. You see, we're gonna shut down to, they ran out of money for the government. They've run out of money. And they want to shut down. Why? But the banks aren't shutting down. You know what I mean? And so, and who do they go to? The Feds. Federal Reserve. $35 trillion in debt. Who do you think we owe it to? Well, I'm not sure who we owe it to, but the Federal Reserve is the reason why we pay taxes in the IRS. You know what I mean? So, this government is not run by the U.S. Treasury anymore. It's run by fucking loans and shit. So, you know what that means. You know that the military is now an asset. That means that property, land is an asset. Even mainland, even those in the mainland, you know, that they stole from the natives, that's now an asset that they can sell to China or to, you know, a company or whatever that's making an investment that's coming over, perhaps, like Trump is doing or suggesting. You know, that means that you are an asset, that you are actually the stock that has a value, and that you have to pay taxes. And depending on the taxes that you pay, depending on how much money you make, makes you either preferred stock or lower class stock. And all these motherfuckers think they're blue chips. And you know, basically what that comes at the expense to is our freedom and our rights. And that's why they push this slave driver mentality, you know, of you having to have a job and 9 to 5, which, and here's the thing though, it's only increased. Do you understand? It's only increased. Back then, 40 years ago, while these rich people were making their money, and when they were usurping, you know, we used to have a middle class. We don't anymore because of the rich, right? They're taking all the wealth, and you know, as it stands, like, you know, your rich people fucking pay 50% of taxes, and they have, I don't know, like 40. I don't know how much percent, somewhere along 40 or 50% of the world, of the nation's wealth, to the top 1%. Right? And 2009, they wanted to introduce this quantitative easing to help bring the demands down for the people, because there was no demand, because there was the prices of inflation. So they wanted to bring it down. They print $3.2 trillion to add to the $800 billion, so there could be a total of $4 trillion in circulation. $3.2 trillion that was supposed to go to the banks to bail them out, and it was supposed to go to the people that don't have shit anyway, that couldn't afford to pay their fucking shit. You see how stupid you see how stupid they fucking think it is? I mean, how stupid they think. And then it's like, the people are not educated because you haven't invested in people's education. You've been trying to gut it. So the people don't even know how to get those funds that are available to them. They don't know how. They don't know financial literacy. And especially, you know who they hurt it the worst was the brown and the black communities. That's who they hurt the worst. You know what I mean? Historically speaking too. So I take great offense to this. But one of the good things that I can say, you know, I'm gonna say when I say something bad, I'm gonna say something good. A good thing now is that you can learn online, and now people all around the world can learn, even though it's not to the same caliber and to the same, you know, good. They can learn somewhat. I mean, which is not really. You can't replace schools, you know, because you still need textbooks. You still need a lot of books, you know, and to get a curriculum. And you still need a curriculum. You still need all this shit, and you still need the experience in the labs and all that shit. So it's very difficult. You know, you can't really just. I mean, I've come to learn that you can't replace education as a whole with just this. You know, there has to be some type of schooling, like a institute or some type of place where they go. I mean, and you could homeschool, but like again, homeschooling takes a lot of. You gotta buy the books as well too, as you can see. Right, a lot of things you got to buy, but But anybody can do it. I mean, you can learn, right? But I mean, but it does help for those that want to, that maybe might be trying to catch up to where they're supposed to be, right? It is a factor that can help a lot of people, right? But it should never be a replacement, right? That's what I'm saying. Or, and I think that they haven't evolved that educational system because of the fact that they haven't wanted to change the business model that was erected when they made this educational system, which is the factory worker capitalist mentality, monopoly that they had created, right? Where they're just creating, uneducated, fucking, people. I'm not. I mean, and not as a whole, because I know that teachers, there's no such thing as bad students, only bad teachers. But it's all like trained for you. Like it comes a time when the teacher starts saying, "Well, you know what? You need to learn how to do a 9 to 5. You know what I mean, and you need to get a regular job. I mean, and so they start stressing about that being more important than the actual material. I mean, like for example, if I go to class and I'm 5 minutes late, I'm like, oh, if I can be 5 minutes, that could be 2 seconds late, and I'm like, yo, she just slammed the door and I just come in like 5 seconds later. I'm like, look, I'm sorry, they won't let me stay. I'm like, why? I'm like, because when you punch your card in when you're older and you're not on the dot, you're gonna get your boss chopped off. I mean, like, well, fuck you, bitch. Fuck. I mean, fuck you and fuck that job. I'm not working for the white man. I mean, or whatever. You know what I mean? But the point is that they do this because they want you to be punctual. And I'm like, that's stupid. That's fucking retarded. I want to be free. I don't want to be, fuck that shit. I got here, bitch. You know what I mean? That's all that matters. But you see, the whole point is to teach you punctuality. I'm like, the smartest people are late to everything. The smartest people keep a messy room. I mean, not dirty. Don't get messy confused with dirty. I just got open books everywhere. I got books everywhere. I got sheets of paper with work on them everywhere. You know what I mean? I got things stacked up like this. Like this, what I mean. Got notes laying around. Like, and if you're like, you ever see that picture, right? You got all this stuff. That's intelligence. But the point is that I'm saying is like the smartest people, but that's not. But when I was in school, they like some teachers were cool, man. Shout out to the good teachers, cool teachers out there, man. Like that dude that was an econ professor, but the kids were fucking rambunctious. But anyway, um, um, this is the reason, like I say, like you know, um, there's not bad students, only bad teachers, right? But now, like, it's difficult for the teachers, man. You know, like they should get bonuses and shit, and they don't do shit, like and people make fun of that shit. But I mean, if I could, I'd be a teacher. I'd be. I could probably teach you something right now. What I mean. You just join the chat, guys, and tell me something and pick my brain, dissect it, but don't come with that fake shit because I will retaliate. So anyway, I was saying, the reason that I feel as though that what Trump look, this is a good book. If I can remember the book, it's gonna be Networks of the New Age. I think it's called. No, Networks of the Tech. Hold on. Anyway, it's a book that tells you about basically sort of like why Donald Trump won, but this was written in 2016. It was just a theory about how technology is going to expand, and by the way, the future, guys, is streaming. That's why you got people like Speed and Neon, and yes, I've kept up with that, not because I like those characters, and yes, I know probably every single fucking podcaster you can name that is worth knowing. You know what I mean? That is has gone viral. But the only reason I know these things is not because I like these things. The only reason I know these things is because I'm keeping up with technology. You know what I mean, and seeing what those things are. So it's like they're all test subjects. You know what I mean, they're all test subjects to me. It's like watching National Geographic. You know what I mean? And And I seen, the stupidest type of people. The first thing that people did when they got phone cameras is take pictures of their ass hole. That is. Do I think that's the best thing or the smartest thing I've ever seen humans do? Of course not. They did not use it as a tool, but as a dildo or something. Sorry for the vulgar language, guys. But again, back to National Geographic. I mean, this is what people do, and I mean, apparently, this is what humans. Just so we're clear, I don't think that humans are animals. I think that we're not driven by these type of things that are instincts. We have instincts, and animals are intelligent too. There's actually videos of crabs wanting to defend each other. You know what I mean? Because they're living life forces, and there's actually crabs, which are crustaceans, which are some of the most oldest creatures on the planet. I mean, probably the first on the planet. When you speak about animals and stuff, and there's video of a female crab trying to hold on to a male crab that gets picked by a diver. You know what I mean? Tries to hold on to him, and goes and she tries to get the little fork thing that's grabbing him, and tries to clip it with her claws. You know what I mean? And it's like, what does this show? This shows a preservation, right? This shows natural order of life, right? This shows I say procreation, but it says natural order of life. Like, she understands that in order for her to evolve, she needs a male, right? For her species to continue, these are the forces of life at work and stuff. You know what I mean? And these are the type of things that are like nature, right? And I think that humans definitely have that nature instinct, but it's saturated because of our minds, because something else, we are led by other things that are not instincts, right? But when it really comes down to it, we are just like animals in the sense that we also feel attachment to that which is ours. It's just that humans comparatively, look at us. We're a lot of people, right? But not and we're not even there yet. Like in 50, 40 years it's going to be like double. Think about that. I already have, and I already know solutions. Like, Elon Musk, let me join your team and shit. Let me be the CEO. Let me run SpaceX while you're over there sucking Donald Trump's dick. You know what I mean? Oh shit, not playing. I don't want to join SpaceX. I wanted to, actually. Like, when I was like 5 years ago, you would have talked to me 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, yo, Elon Musk is the man. You know what I mean? That motherfucker is the man, right? But then I realized it was just a bunch of little fucking cocksuckers that were spreading that sentiment. You know what I mean? And honestly, and your stakeholders, obviously. But honestly, I want to have my own space company. You know what I mean? Fuck SpaceX. You know what I mean? Those motherfuckers want to go to Mars. Dumb motherfuckers. Go ahead, bitch. Say that you don't like us, and I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Say you don't like us and you want to go to Mars. You know what I'm saying? Dumb motherfucker. You're going to die before you get there. You ain't never going to see Mars, motherfucker. I don't know about your kids. Your kids, grandkids, maybe, if you're successful. You know what I mean? But the point is that a bunch of you motherfuckers, they can never go and see Mars. You know what I mean? And did you think you were going to be some of the first people? I did. I was like, this is incredible. This is fucking amazing. This is it. This is my way out. Now I realized all these cocksuckers thought the same thing. So I was like, oh, fuck this shit. You know what I mean? Imagine being on a fucking ship with MAGA supporters. You're stuck with them. They will contaminate everything. It's like being on a fucking shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no, nigga. Fuck that. Elon Musk is a demon. You know what I mean? And like an angel, just like up in heaven, they will fall. Right? And, not even Trump, not even Elon Musk is gonna be able to build a spaceship that's gonna save you from hell. You know what I mean? Anyway, now I was thinking about Blue Origins, right? Jeff Bezos' company. And Jeff Bezos has a saying, at least, let me just put it to you like this, a saying not that extreme point of view, which is like, no, we're not gonna abandon Mother Earth. We're gonna stay here. We're gonna try to take. He says we're gonna try to take all the experiments we do that use that pollute the air here, and we're gonna go do it off world, so that we won't contaminate and destroy our world. You know what I mean? Which is and was more plausible. Like, I like a lot of that. And then you go to moon, right? And he that's where he wants to go, the moon, not to Mars, but to the moon, right? So it's like this is incredible. So I can jump from Jeff Bezos and fucking then jump onto the moon, and then I'm gonna jump to fucking. By the time we get to Venus, woo, we're gonna be motherfucking chilling. You know what I mean? But the point is that, like, I don't want them to be the only ones to doing this, because I don't like deifying these guys. I mean, I don't like, what's the word called? Idolizing people. I mean, they just so happen to find a fucking exploitation in the algorithm, or rather they've been chosen to do this. You know what I mean? Or whatever. They filled the spot. They got sucked into the vacuum. They are who they are. You know what I mean? And they are the ones that are doing this. And and that's what it do. So, I have to fucking get sucked in through my own fucking mind, down to through my spine, through my own penis, straight through a hole that gets sucked into the, and then I become the motherfucking man. You know what I mean? And I become king. You know what I mean? So I got to do my own thing. You understand? Maybe I had too much of this. Anyway, I'm just playing, guys. If you guys think that I should be a comedic actor, then leave your comment below. I mean, but we chilling, bro. This is Friday. This is December 20th. The government might have a shutdown. You know what I'm saying? Shit is fucking great. When I say great, I mean terribly, horribly fucked up. But things, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and by the way, you know what I mean? I think that is like as people we gotta represent, because, like I said, Trump only won because of a technicality. Okay, the technicality was that the left was still being respectful to the legacy media and keeping to traditions and respecting the baby boomer generation, along with, you know what I mean, what's been traditionally known as the main source of media. While Trump and his cronies, his crones, went off script, disrespecting the Constitution, but also disrespecting the whole entire fucking shit, doing their own thing, coming in with this fucking shit, with streamers and fucking YouTube channels and podcasters and shit, which is not just disrespectful, but it's the equivalence of a fucking 60-year-old man thinking he's fucking 20 and shit. You know what I mean? So thanks a lot, Baron Trump, fucking faggot. You know what I mean? And so sorry. The point is that that's the technicality. You know what I mean? The left couldn't possibly have been, prepared to deal with 8 years worth of hatred, while simultaneously with the advancement of technology, in which they have been creating a business model in which they are blowing off steam against you guys. You know what I mean? As the left, the right has done with technology. You know what I mean? With YouTube, unprecedented hatred that they had, after the first election, after the first administration rather of Trump. You know what I mean? Nobody could prevent them from the unmediated, infiltration of Russian propaganda into the United States of America. They couldn't possibly, being well guarded. That was your job, to guard the American citizens against propaganda and against the Russian hackers, and you did your best. And then Trump fucking said fuck you, and then said, we have new projects, scrap the rest of the projects, we're letting go of the Russian and Russian hack and whatever. And they never followed up on a defense against Russian hackers, right? And he decided to fucking get new NSA agents, new FBI agents. I mean, shit. This guy is fucking public enemy number one to the law enforcement motherfuckers. And the thing that I don't fucking understand is if the right fucking can follow a guy who admits, and I guess because he admits this, you admit this, that the government's fucked up, that the NSA, the fucking CIA, the FBI needs a new director. You know what I mean? And they're all corrupted and incompetent motherfuckers. Then why the fuck do you support the fucking police? You know what I mean? That's the shit I don't fucking understand. But you support police and you need ICE agents because they're not corrupt and incompetent. No, those guys are better than the FBI. You know what I mean? Fucking morons. That's what's race. I think that's the definition of racism. You know what I mean? I think that's the definition of racism. Not being valued as much as your fucking dumb motherfucking shit. Your corruption, your racism outweighs your morality and your righteousness. You know what I mean? Can you believe it? I can, because that's what the fuck is going on. That's why we say that's why a lot of me sits back and laugh and be like, you critical motherfuckers, you're gonna fall hard. You know what I mean? Because you're idiots. I mean, you're hypocrites. You are driven by hate and revenge. So when you ask us that we're pussies because we don't square up with you guys, why, nigga? Like I said, why would I fucking go to the streets and protest when you fuckers are in your mansions doing this shit in your studios behind a camera? You know, why the fuck am I gonna go on the streets and do that shit? Everybody else can. I'm just talking for myself now. I've gone against cops. I've gone against everybody. I wouldn't back down from a fight. I'm like Eminem. You know, I would have done a freaking freestyle against you too if I had a platform to, and that's what I'm doing, right? But the point I'm trying to say is, why would I go do that stuff, right? When the people that I hate are behind closed doors, that they're Karens looking through the blind shields, calling the cops on me and shit. Why would I do that? You're not in the streets, so why the fuck would I go to the streets to do this? You know what I mean? If you were in the streets, you would get your wig split. You know, and that's the American way, which is really the real Native American way, which is the real this continent's way of doing things. And I know you British motherfuckers do not like that, or you Canadian British implants don't like that neither. But I don't give a fuck. I mean, shit. That's why you had to run, because you're going back to your old ways. That's why I like the real, no offense. That's why I like the real white people that are cool with blacks and with brown people, and especially if they're cool with brown people. You know what I mean? But real talk, and then you have to go further and say, especially if they're down with the Native Americans, my nigga, and shit. Because that's how you know that you're not a slave in the system. That's how you know that you got a spirituality, that you're connected to humanity, and not just this empire, which will rise and fall, and you'll be nobody. I mean, and you will rise and fall with it. You know what I'm saying? That shows that you have humanity. You know what I mean? And it's not about agreeing with everybody, because I don't want y'all to get shot for hanging around with the wrong type of people. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I represent what the blacks believe, because I don't represent what the blacks believe. I like hip-hop and shit, and I know a lot of black people. That doesn't mean that I trust all black people. And that doesn't mean that I motherfucking am going to be a dumbass when I'm in the hood. I mean, I like the way that you sell drugs and and the way that you jack, people. I mean, may I fucking I don't even talk like that. I don't even know fucking making that Greco-Roman accent. But I'm very good at it. You know what I mean? Anyway. Because I try to sound like you fucking white kids. You know what I mean? Because y'all motherfuckers is trippy. I think y'all the smartest motherfuckers ever. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But, intelligence in the biblical sense, right, is that you separate yourself from sin. And that is intelligent. Because you understand that sin leads to death. So that's also what you white nihilistic scientific atheists also believe as Darwinism and natural selection. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want to depress everybody here. In the biblical sense, right? It's separating yourself from sin. It has is separating yourself from that type of gravity. So from that type of, calamity, that type of tragedy and tragic stuff, because sin leads to death. Sin hurts you and it destroys things, not just in this world. Unfortunately, it destroys things like that you can't even see. Like love gets destroyed. That hurts you in a way. You know, your mental health. You get played. Now you have insecurities. Now you have, you know, different things. You know what I mean? And that's why. And you're still alive. You're not destroyed. You know how bitches always fucking cheat on you? They say, well, you're still breathing, so, I haven't done anything to you. You know what I mean? Like fucking crazy ass bitches in there. And like, bitch, you fucking poisoned the fountain of love. I mean, you ceased the transmission and the radiance of love and light and truth going out into the universe. You have found a cap on the universe. It's all imploding like a black hole within me. Like, the walls are closing in. You know what I mean? The whole universe is closing in on me. You know what I mean? Love was supposed to radiate as far as your imagination goes. As long as there's love, right? Then love will be received. But then this bitch cheated on me, hurting me. Now it's like, boom, coming all the way back to me. And it's all coming back to me. Oh, shit. Yep. Alright, guys. We've entered the we're kind of tipsy phase of the stream. It's just been an hour and 30 minutes sitting at the bar with you guys. So,